Right. Weekly economy wrap up number 155. Goal making for raid release Mythic Plus, Mythic Plus Plus, and PvP Season 1. So, we check this out every Monday. Usually every Monday, assuming that Samadan actually posts it on the Sunday night like he usually does. But this, yes, is wrote up once a week by our good friend Samadan. You should check him out over on either his YouTube channel or he live streams over on Twitch. He does tend to cover the article himself on his live stream shortly after he posts it. I tend to cover it on the Monday morning because, you know, different times. But let's have a look. Let's see what's going on. Welcome to week 3 of Shadowlands. Yes, indeed. Big changes this week. An incredibly important week for many players with the release of the Raid and the Mythic Plus season and Season 1 of PvP. For goal making especially, we're seeing a spike in demand finally for Enchanting. True, enchants are actually kind of useful nowadays. We're also seeing Alchemy have some profitability, and of course cooking is starting to make a big buzz, especially some of the meat, and I think it goes on to focus. One example being the ribs. You can see raid release average market price of the ribs was sort of 40 odd gold a piece. Then the raid comes out and boom 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 boom, the actual quantity comes down, the market price goes up. All of a sudden people are actively out in the world farming the ribs that they've got that expensive. The ribs, there's two, isn't there? There's ribs and I want to say the creepy crawly meat. I can't remember what it is. If you kill a bunch of spiders, you usually get the creepy crawly meat, I think. That is another one that seems to be more difficult to farm, and arguably the more difficult something is to farm, the higher the price, as we probably all are very aware of. Let's go big cam for this. As we're all very aware of with heavy callous hide, for example. Sam, thanks for the sub. Welcome. Hope you're enjoying. So, the price has doubled and the quantity is halved as people start using the food to be able to beat this harder content. Interestingly, I've still not leveled cooking. Creepy crawly meat. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Something like creepy crawly meat. Creepy crawler meat, maybe? I don't know. Whatever. But there's a couple of bits of food. The ribs are the main one, though. The ribs are the main one. So another item that's holding strong is the Eternal Crystals. We were contemplating what the Eternal Crystals were going to do, as they're used in the higher end enchants, such as the Sinful Revelation, which is a big creeping crawler meat. Creeping crawler meat, not creepy crawler meat. Whatever. Creepy crawly, creeping crawler. It's the same thing. It's all bloody spiders. But yeah, the Sinful Revelation weapon enchant is pretty popular. And the fact that there are just so few epic items to disenchant at this point still, it's keeping the price of the Eternal Crystals pretty high. Yet what we have started to see is, because of a greater... this is actually a really interesting trend to see. Really interesting to see that the market, the quantity available and the market price have tended to go down. There will come a point where this won't necessarily be the case. Usually you find the quantity, when the market price goes down, it's usually because the quantity available goes up. But it's... yeah, it's interesting to see the fact that the market price and the quantity available is both declining. That's an odd one. Something's going to have to snap at some point. Something's going to snap at some point. When the market price, the quantity available gets too low, what tends to happen is that all that is remaining gets bought out, and then the market price will spike up again. That may happen Wednesday. We may see. Next reset? That could be an interesting one. That's one to keep our eyes on. If this trend continues, of both the quantity and the market price declining. It's going to be interesting. Overall, we're seeing much greater activity in players buying items on the auction house as they prepare for harder content and seek every advantage possible. What a great time to be a gold maker. Can't agree more so. Can't agree more so. The fact that a lot of virtually every item now is in demand in some aspect. Leveling gear is really the only thing that's slightly on a decline now, but now the fact that people are getting their rep in the mall done and dusted with Venari, she's selling them the Crafter's Mark rank 2. People are creating 168 gear, which is already introducing a nice little cheeky catch-up system for players that, for their alts, for example, their alt dings 60, they can go straight to the auction house, and at the moment, in fairness, for a reasonable amount of gold, they can jump straight to almost 170 item level, which is basically heroic dungeon level, meaning they can step straight into their mythic pluses, straight into the raid. Interestingly, one thing that we worked out the other day was that the item level requirement to get into LFR is going to be 170, which means if you stack yourself out in 168 gear, plus you do a few Torghast runs and get your legendary sorted, you can, and you buy a Dark Moon trinket, you can then pretty easily hit the 170 threshold to be able to get into LFR, which I know for a lot of people you'll go, LFR, but the point is, for a huge percentage of the player base, that's going to be their first look at the raid. So it will have an effect, I assure you of that. And don't laugh at my silly impression of LFRs. Right, next thing then, the cost of crafting legendaries. My favourite market. One particular market that's seen a huge pre-expansion speculation and investment is the whole crafting of the legendary base items. Many people in search of huge gold opportunities invested heavily in the markets, getting to rank 4 as soon as possible, whilst although the higher ranks can't even be used yet due to the limit on Soul Ash. It appears that Samadan is probably pulled in, I want to say, arguably some comments off Twitter maybe, off Reddit even, sorry. People are rushing ahead to craft these high ranks because they've been told that they'll make huge gold off them. That's what many are banking on, and that's why they're selling low ranks for below the material cost right now. Here's how this ends though. People see these ranks 3s, 4s on the auction house for hundreds of thousands and they go, I can make tons of money on that. And they add to the pile of people racing to rank 4. By the time the market even exists on rank 4, it will be flooded with people desperate to recover their millions they sunk into reaching it. This is another situation of this person, no shade on who Mobile Shrine Bear is. This person is somebody that's looking from the outside in. This doesn't sound like the opinion of somebody that has actually got rank 4 crafts. This sounds like somebody that is of the opinion that they could make lots of money from that and are slightly believing something that, yeah, this is an outsider looking in perspective. This is what this person would like to think is the case. It's not necessarily actually the way that it works. The logic is there, true, but unfortunately a lot of people aren't logical when they play the game. Meaning that in reality, yes, this was probably the case in the very first week or so, but now the market is very different to how it was just 7 days ago. Simply because all of these people that did decide to try and make money on it are now just not bothering anymore. They've realised that, oh, actually, no, I can't, and they've peaced out. They're done. They're not the people that are constantly undercutting. If you've got rank 2s, rank 3s and rank 4s listed on the auction house right now, I virtually guarantee it's the same 4 or 5 people Same names that you'll see every time you run a cancel scan. There's very few people that have the higher ranks in comparison to who was selling the rank 1s. Next we have, I think the rank 1s through to 3s are all going to be unprofitable or at best break even. The reason people are willing to sell their items for less is because they feel like they're working towards something that will make up for the losses. It's kind of similar to the mentality of leveling a profession. People understand that leveling is unprofitable, but they do it with the hopes that once they reach the full level in their profession, it will be worth it. Those numbers are crazy though. I have everything leveled to rank 3 and the amount of gold that I've had to invest is daunting. Right now I have 15 of every rank 2 item in my guild bank, something like 10 million gold liquid tied up in these assets. Ouch. I mean, I can smell the salt. There's two very different opinions here straight away. Somebody now says, I think rank 1s through till 3 are all going to be unprofitable or break even. Yet they then go to say that they've sunk 10 million gold into the system. It doesn't add up, right? This sounds like somebody that dumped 10 million gold into the system and expected to see 20 million gold come out of the system very quickly. And they've realised that actually that 10 million gold that they spent early days is not going to get back in their pockets very quickly. This sounds like, again, somebody that was in it for the quick buck, but the difference here is that they had deep pockets to begin with. And the reason they think all rank 3s are going to be unprofitable is probably because they put 15 on the auction house and they didn't sell 15. Impatience. People need to be patient with the system. And the reason I think this is very salty is because they've spent 10 million gold and they're having huge difficulties selling their items because they post them once a day and expect all 15 to sell. This is why you've just got to be careful. That this person sounds very... that they have strong feelings about that 10 million gold that is tied up and they really wish that it wasn't. So, yeah, I can't say I totally agree with either of these statements, if I'm honest. One of them comes from somebody that is blatantly an outsider looking in. And the other one is from somebody that invested way too heavily and was in it to make a whole bunch of gold really quickly, considered it to be Dark Moon Cards 2.0, and has realised that this is a long game system, this is not a short-term win. Threes might be unprofitable now, but the supply of 1s and 2s grows thinner and they're probably profitable again. Possibly the case. This person, that if they've got 10 million gold liquid tied up in leatherworking items, and they say if what they claim is true, that they have 15 of every rank 2 item in the guild bank, they should have made a whole bunch of gold this week, because rank 2s are just flying off the shelves. Not only that, but rank 2s, at least in leatherworking, are considerably more expensive to craft now than they were a week ago. So this person should be, in theory, in a really good position right now. The problem is they're not willing to put in the time and effort to make that gold work. They wanted to make 20 million gold in the first week, and when they didn't, they've just dumped it all in a guild bank and called it quits. So, ouch. One of Hickons' tweets. This is the one I was referring to. I've referred to a few times this week, actually. It's nice to see that Samadan highlighted it. Whoever designed Shadowlands Professions is trolling. 10.3 million gold spent on Callous Hide and still don't have all of the leatherworking rank 4s. Yeah. So Hickons himself has spent over 10 million gold on heavy Callous Hide. And you can see, actually, interestingly, his prices are in the middle of what mine have been. this was posted a few days ago. This was posted on December the 8th. We're now on the 14th, so this is almost a week later. I would imagine Hikon's price for his heavy callous hide is probably gone up, and I would imagine his expenditure is probably doubled now. I'd imagine he's probably closer to 20 million gold invested in this, but he probably is now at a point where he's got mostly rank 3s and 4s, I would guess. But yeah, it's ridiculous the amount of gold that people are having to spend to get to go the distance in these professions right now. This is good to see. People are still buying them. Don't knock it until you've tried it. This was back on December 8th again, but this showed the Umberhide pauldrons. He had some crazy say on just Umberhide gear. He sold 163 items and made over 6 million gold in revenue from doing it. Now, Goats, thanks for the sub. Welcome. Nice name. I'm very aware that the percentage of my sales that come from leatherworking right now is quite low, and I know that is because I'm behind the curve. I've not got many above rank 2. I've not even got half of them at rank 2 yet even. But the biggest bottleneck for me is quite simply the amount of heavy callous hide I can physically buy. Two reasons. One, my liquid gold is not great. And two, even if I did have lots of liquid gold, it's very difficult right now for me to buy in any decent quantity on a regular basis. So I'm just sort of bottlenecked on materials right now. We'll see how that plays out. I thought I featured in this at some point. And Samadan's also put down there that I've gone into further speculating on the legendary base item with my TED Talk style video. This was actually, I kind of cheated with this. This was kind of just ripped straight off the stream. But it was something we went through in a lot of detail the other day about how week 1, week 2, week 3 and week 4 of the legendary crafting system is likely to play out. And at least so far my predictions have been pretty much spot on. But if you've not seen that video, check it out on the channel. It's one of my more recent videos. It's a bit of a longer video. It's about 45 minutes long, but it's well worth watching it through to the end if you haven't already, especially if you're into legendaries. But yeah, we don't need to focus on that too much. Leatherworking rank 2 and 3 is where the money comes from. I'm pretty sure this is the case. I almost need to just spend 500k in each slot, get each slot to at least rank 2, preferably even rank 3. We're almost at the point where I could do with having rank 3s across the board. I know I'm behind the curve, and when you're behind the curve, it is even more costly to catch up. The complete group farming guide for Shadowlands. El Goblino Guides has posted a great guide talking about how group farming and how to get into it. So this is more for the farmers out there. It's how to effectively, by the looks of things, set up 2x4. Oh, 2x4 means 2 groups of 4 people. Balanced druids are the overlords of group farming. Brewmaster monks are also pretty sought after simply because of their statue, drawing everything in. Doesn't mean that other classes are useless, just that you can never beat the best balanced druids in terms of efficiency. They've got long range, instant cast spells, and they've got pretty good AoE, which is just a really good combination. The passive damage you deal with Starfall, and the pulling ability you have is unmatched of any class or spec. Yes, very true. Depends on how much you're farming. Are you looking for short-term or long-term value? For me, it's absolutely worth it, but I cannot answer those questions for you. Yeah, in relation to should you actually just make a balanced druid or brewmaster monk, quite simply, right now, in my opinion, everybody should have a druid. Everybody should have a druid, even if you're not, even if you're like me, who's not into farming, you will always find having a druid to be useful. whether it be to set them as a double gatherer, so herbalist miner, and if you've got a spare hour and you don't want to spend it dealing with auctions or crafting items, you can just run around, pick stuff up, maybe bang out a few world quests whilst you do it, do something real simple, real easy, and still end up with a bunch of gold in your bags at the end of it. Having a druid is really, really good for gold making, even if you don't enjoy farming. Interestingly, he's gone into Covenant choice, basically claiming that Night Fae is the absolute best. You get free Starfall almost every time, and you get lots of astral power with the Night Fae ability. No one will reject you from a group for not being Night Fae, but if you want the most efficient farming group, then go for Night Fae. Fair enough. And he's even gone into talents for the Druid, and yeah, this is looking pretty good. Tailoring and Shadowlands cloth scavenging will make you loot a lot more cloth. Very true. I rotate between 3 professions on my farming character: tailoring, enchanting, and then skinning. I always keep skinning because you need that to be at maximum skill to have the most yield. I do not craft anything on this character, so I switch between enchanting and tailoring as I need. When I need to disenchant items, pick up enchanting. When you need to farm something, pick up tailoring for the cloth scavenging. Pretty simple. If you're not leveling up the professions, there's no reason that you can't switch between them sort of ad hoc. Pretty sensible, pretty sensible. Then Unicats has posted some very helpful routes for herbalism in each Shadowlands region. I've actually tested some of these out. They're very good. Can confirm they are very good. The Bastion one is not exactly the route that I would take, although it does kind of work. Instead of going through the trench here, I would actually be skirting around the outer edge and then cutting back through, but the rest of the route is exactly what I would be doing. Because mainly when you run through this trench, there's lots of things that aggro. You have to fight a whole bunch of things, but there are some good nodes down there. If you run up the top and around the cliff edge here, you very rarely aggro anything, and there's just as many herbs, but it's a slightly longer route. Moldraxus, I've not tested this one, but equally it's very similar. The fact that these, you can almost do a big figure of 8. That's the way I tend to do Moldraxus, and this is how I was doing it on the beta. Coming down this way, skirting down this side is also valuable sometimes, but it's basically running around the middle and up to the House of Eyes. Stay off the edges in Moldraxus, because there's lots of things that's going to kill you. Do you recommend Druid Double Gatherer to twink at level 50? I don't really think twinking at 50 is much of a benefit, if I'm honest right now, especially if you're going double gathering. What up, dog? You not happy being in here? Let me let you out. Go on then. Apologies for that small dog-related interruption. The Ardenweld one was one I was testing the other day. This is a really good farming route. This works really, really well. This has been very cleverly put together so that you can basically do near the entire route, if you follow this, without actually aggroing anything, which is massive. When you're out there doing herbalism and mining, the last thing you want to do is be aggroing mobs, because all that is doing is taking time for you to kill them, and the more time you're killing mobs, the less time you're running around farming things. So this route actually works very cleverly. There's only a couple of points where you might aggro something, but if you know about them, if you're a druid, just go into stealth form, pick up the herb and then run away kind of thing. It's pretty easy to do this entire route without aggroing anything. And the Revendreth one is the only one I've not tested so far, but it's interesting the fact that this route is highlighting the southernmost part of Revendreth and going pretty extensively round it. My farming route of choice for Revendreth was actually in Sinful, which is over here roughly. I'd never really done this route previously, so I should probably give this a good go to see how well it works. Are there only pictures or roots to the links as well? If you actually look at this was taken from a Reddit post. There's a link here to the actual Reddit post where there's the import code for roots. So yeah, definitely you wanna check these out if you've got your herbalism and mining character. Pretty optimized roots. Definitely worth an upvote. And then finally for this week's economy report, we have a 2-button fishing method. A useful guide if you want to make good use of fishing right now, considering the prices are high because of the demand on the food. There's a nice setup for some semi-AFK fishing. No add-ons, you don't even have to move the mouse, so it can be done with a controller. Interesting. Go into your key bindings and then target bind interact on mouse over to a key. This example we're going to use the I key since that's what I was using. Now put your fishing ability on the hotbar and bind that to another key. I use the O button since that's right next to the I button. Okay, so you can just sort of like press between the two. Buy an oversized bobber at the fishing vendor in either Orgrimmar or Stormwind, and wherever one in the Oribos does not have it. Interesting. You have to go back to Orgrimmar or Stormwind to get the oversized fishing bobbers. Now go to a fishing vendor in Oribos and buy some bait for the fish that you're looking for. Optional, but you will get some of these. Optional, as you'll get some of these when fishing. Yeah, the fishing bait you can pick up just naturally by fishing, but you can also buy it if you wish as well. Head over to a fishing spot, use the oversized bobber and the bait. Now you can just press I to cast your line out and O to catch the fish. Either zoom out or position the camera behind the bobber towards your character. Zoom in to first person view and hover the mouse over the bobber. The bobber should be big enough so that you don't need to move your mouse, and continue pressing I and O to catch fish whilst moving a movie or doing anything you want. This is interesting. This is something that people have been kind of aware of for a long time, but not many people really talk about. When you are fishing, if you zoom heavily into one spot, your bobber will land there every time. If you're fully zoomed out on your character, the bobber can go basically anywhere it wants. But if you zoom super far in, the bobber always has to land somewhere on the screen. And so it basically lands in the same plot, same space every time. Meaning you can do cheeky things like this and do some fishing very, very quickly and easily. I've not watched the actual video for this specifically. But Want to Buy Gold, or Reckles as he's commonly known, did a really good fishing video on exactly this. I want to say a couple of years ago now, where he was basically, I think the video was titled something along the lines of "You're all doing fishing wrong," and it basically explained about this large bobber situation, and that if you zoom in, the bobber lands in the same spot each and every time, and he talks about it in great detail. But this is a good refresher for people, considering that there's a lot of people that will never have seen that video. So, but there we go. That was the weekly economy report. Is that number 155? Was it maybe? How many are we on now? 155. So yes, there we go. There was the economy weekly wrap up. Pretty good this week. Not just because I was featured in it, but you know, lots of helpful stuff there. Cool, I enjoyed that. What did everybody think? What's your opinion on alchemy profits? There's not much. There's not much profit for alchemists. The profit in alchemy comes from acquiring your materials cheaper than the next alchemist. If you can do that, you win. If you can do that, you win.